What if I told you that intelligence isn't about how much you know, but how quickly you can apply what you know? Shocking, right? But here's the kicker. Speed and intelligence are so tightly intertwined that they're practically interchangeable. Think about it. When we admire someone's intellect, what are we really noticing? It's not just the depth of their knowledge, but the lightning-fast way they connect ideas, solve problems, and respond to new information. This isn't coincidence. It's a fundamental aspect of how our brains operate. Let's dive into this mind-bending concept. Imagine two people with identical knowledge bases. One takes 5 minutes to solve a complex problem, while the other takes 5 seconds. Who would you consider more intelligent? The answer seems obvious, but it challenges our traditional notions of intelligence. Now here's where it gets really interesting. What if I told you that given the right algorithm, a specific set of mental steps, anyone could potentially match the performance of a so-called genius? It sounds far-fetched, but hear me out. Consider this. Most decisions we make, even seemingly complex ones, are bound by time constraints measured in hours, not days or weeks. Within this time frame, the ability to rapidly cycle through an effective thinking algorithm can outperform raw intellectual horsepower. This is where the concept of algorithmic thinking comes into play. It's not about having a bigger mental toolbox. It's about using your tools more efficiently and consistently. Imagine a chess player who doesn't necessarily see more moves ahead than their opponent, but who can evaluate each potential move more quickly and accurately. Over the course of a game, this speed advantage compounds, leading to superior performance. But here's the real game changer. This type of thinking isn't limited to chess or academic pursuits. It can be applied to virtually any cognitive task. From business decisions to creative problem solving, the ability to rapidly cycle through a well-designed mental algorithm can yield results that appear almost superhuman. So, how do we cultivate this algorithmic mindset? It starts with recognizing that intelligence isn't a fixed trait, but a skill that can be honed and optimized. The key lies in developing a systematic approach to thinking that you can apply consistently across various domains. First, we need to break down our thought processes into discrete steps. This might involve questioning assumptions, generating hypotheses, seeking evidence, and evaluating outcomes. The goal is to create a mental flowchart that you can navigate swiftly and efficiently. Next, we practice applying this algorithm relentlessly. Remember, the power of this approach lies not in its complexity, but in its consistent application. It's about training your brain to automatically engage in structured, critical thinking whenever you encounter a problem or decision. But here's where many people stumble. They assume that because they're not seeing immediate results, the method isn't working. This is a crucial misconception. The true power of algorithmic thinking emerges over time, as you become increasingly adept at rapidly cycling through your mental processes. It's like building a cognitive muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger and faster it becomes. Consider this. When faced with a complex problem, most people's minds tend to wander, jumping from one partial solution to another without fully exploring any single path. But with a well-honed algorithm, you can systematically explore each avenue of thought, quickly discarding dead ends and pursuing promising leads. This approach isn't about being smarter in the traditional sense. It's about being more efficient with the intelligence you already possess. Think of it as optimizing your mental CPU. You're not necessarily increasing its raw power, but you're dramatically improving its throughput. Now, you might be wondering, doesn't this make thinking robotic or formulaic? Quite the opposite. By freeing your mind from the cognitive overhead of deciding how to think, you actually create more space for creativity and insight. It's like a jazz musician who has internalized scales and chord progressions to the point where they can improvise freely, without consciously thinking about the technical aspects of their playing. But here's where it gets really fascinating. This approach can actually lead to insights that might elude even those with higher raw intelligence. How? By allowing for more iterations of thought in a given time frame. While someone else might be stuck contemplating their first idea, You've already generated and evaluated dozens of possibilities. This iterative advantage compounds over time. In a day, a week, or a year of consistent application, the person using algorithmic thinking will have explored vastly more cognitive territory than their peers. They'll have made more mistakes, learned more lessons, and stumbled upon more unexpected connections. And here's the kicker. This approach is domain agnostic. Whether you're tackling a business problem, writing a novel, or trying to improve your relationships, the same principles apply. It's about consistently applying a structured approach to thinking, regardless of the specific challenge at hand. But let's be clear. This isn't about turning yourself into some kind of thinking machine. It's about recognizing that our brains have limited processing power and finding ways to use that power more effectively. It's about acknowledging that time is often our most precious resource and learning to make the most of every cognitive moment. So how do we start thinking this way? It begins with metacognition, thinking about how you think. Pay attention to your thought processes when you're solving problems or making decisions. What steps do you typically follow? Where do you tend to get stuck or sidetracked? Once you've identified your current patterns, you can start to refine and optimize them. Next, develop a set of go-to questions that you can rapidly cycle through when approaching any problem. These might include, what assumptions am I making? What's the core issue here? What information am I missing? What would success look like? By internalizing these questions, you create a mental framework that automatically guides your thinking in a structured way. But here's where many people falter. They apply this approach inconsistently. Remember, the power of algorithmic thinking lies in its relentless application. It's not about having occasional flashes of brilliance. It's about consistently engaging in high-quality thinking. Consider this scenario. You're a business leader faced with a critical decision that could make or break your company. You have 24 hours to decide. The traditional approach might involve agonizing over the decision, second-guessing yourself, and ultimately making a choice based on gut feeling. But with algorithmic thinking, you'd rapidly cycle through your mental framework, systematically evaluating options, seeking input, and stress-testing your conclusions. By the end of the 24 hours, you'd have effectively explored far more cognitive territory than your counterpart. This approach isn't just about making better decisions, it's about making them with confidence. When you know you've systematically explored the problem space, you're less likely to be plagued by doubt and second-guessing. But here's where it gets really interesting. This method can actually lead to more creative solutions. By rapidly generating and evaluating ideas, you're more likely to stumble upon unexpected connections and novel approaches. It's like a mental version of evolutionary algorithms in computer science. By quickly iterating through many possibilities, you increase your chances of finding optimal solutions. Now you might be thinking, but doesn't this approach stifle intuition and gut feeling? Not at all. In fact, it enhances them. By rapidly processing information and exploring possibilities, you're actually feeding your intuition with more data. Your gut feelings become more informed, more nuanced. Consider the field of scientific research. Many groundbreaking discoveries have come not from lone geniuses having eureka moments, but from researchers systematically exploring their field, making incremental progress, and suddenly noticing unexpected patterns. By thinking algorithmically, you're essentially increasing your chances of stumbling upon these serendipitous insights. But here's the real kicker. This approach scales. Whether you're tackling a minor personal decision or a major global challenge, the same principles apply. It's about consistently applying a structured approach to thinking, regardless of the specific context. Imagine if everyone in your organization adopted this mindset. The collective intelligence of the group would skyrocket, not because individuals suddenly became smarter, but because they became more effective at leveraging their existing intelligence. This is where the true power of algorithmic thinking lies. It's not just about individual performance, it's about elevating the cognitive capabilities of entire teams, organizations, and even societies. By creating a culture of structured, efficient thinking, we can tackle increasingly complex challenges with greater confidence and effectiveness. But let's be clear, this isn't about turning humans into robots. It's about recognizing the limitations of our cognitive resources and finding ways to optimize their use. It's about acknowledging that in a world of increasing complexity and information overload, we need new strategies to navigate effectively. So how do we start implementing this approach on a broader scale? It begins with education. We need to shift our focus from rote memorization and standardized testing to teaching students how to think algorithmically. This doesn't mean abandoning creativity or critical thinking. Rather, it means providing students with the tools to apply these skills more effectively. In the professional world, organizations can foster this mindset through training programs and by rewarding structured thinking processes, not just outcomes. Leaders can model this approach, demonstrating how rapid, systematic thinking leads to better decisions and more innovative solutions. But perhaps the most powerful way to spread this approach is through demonstration. As you begin to apply algorithmic thinking in your own life, others will notice the difference. They'll see how you're able to navigate complex situations with greater ease and confidence. They'll observe how you consistently arrive at better solutions in less time. This ripple effect can be transformative. Imagine a world where algorithmic thinking becomes the norm, where people routinely approach problems with structured, efficient cognitive strategies. The collective problem-solving capacity of humanity would be dramatically enhanced, leading to breakthroughs in science, technology, and social progress that we can scarcely imagine today. But here's where we need to challenge our conventional understanding of intelligence. It's not just about having the capacity for certain types of thinking, like lateral thinking or abstract reasoning. The real key to intelligence lies in the consistent application of effective thinking strategies. Think of it like developing cognitive muscle memory. Just as a skilled musician can play complex pieces without consciously thinking about each individual note, a person who consistently applies algorithmic thinking can navigate complex problems with remarkable ease and efficiency. This consistency is what truly sets apart high performers in various fields. It's not that they're inherently smarter in the traditional sense. Rather, they've trained their minds to automatically engage in structured, efficient thinking processes whenever they encounter a challenge. Consider the world's top chess players. Their advantage isn't just in their ability to see more moves ahead or recognize more patterns. It's in their consistent application of effective decision-making processes, move after move, game after game. They've internalized these thinking strategies to such a degree that they can apply them rapidly and automatically, even under intense pressure. The same principle applies in fields as diverse as scientific research, business leadership, and creative arts. Those who rise to the top aren't necessarily those with the highest IQ scores or the most innate talent. They're the ones who consistently apply effective thinking strategies, day in and day out. This consistency allows for a compounding effect over time. Each application of these thinking strategies not only solves the immediate problem at hand, but also reinforces the neural pathways associated with that type of thinking. Over months and years, this consistent practice leads to a level of cognitive performance that can appear almost superhuman to outside observers. But here's the exciting part. This type of intelligence isn't limited to a select few. It's a skill that can be developed by anyone willing to put in the consistent effort. By committing to applying structured thinking processes in our daily lives, we can all enhance our cognitive performance over time. Imagine if our educational systems were redesigned around this principle. Instead of focusing primarily on content knowledge, we could teach students how to consistently apply effective thinking strategies across all subjects. We'd be equipping them not just with information, but with the tools to navigate an increasingly complex and rapidly changing world. In the professional realm, organizations could foster this type of intelligence by creating environments that reward consistent application of effective thinking processes, not just final outcomes. This shift could lead to more innovative solutions, better decision-making, and ultimately more successful and adaptable organizations. But perhaps the most profound impact of this understanding of intelligence is on personal development. When we recognize that intelligence isn't a fixed trait, but a skill that can be honed through consistent practice, it opens up new possibilities for growth and achievement. It empowers us to take control of our cognitive development and continuously improve our mental capabilities. Of course, developing this type of consistent algorithmic thinking isn't easy. It requires discipline, self-awareness, and a willingness to challenge our existing thought patterns. But the potential rewards are enormous. By committing to this approach, we can unlock levels of cognitive performance that we might have previously thought were beyond our reach. So how do we begin to cultivate this type of intelligence? It starts with breaking down complex problems into smaller, more manageable parts. This decomposition allows us to apply our algorithmic thinking to each component, systematically working through the challenge piece by piece. One effective technique is to create decision trees for common scenarios you encounter. By mapping out potential outcomes and decision points, you're essentially creating a mental algorithm that you can quickly navigate when faced with similar situations in the future. Another powerful method is developing personal heuristics, mental shortcuts that help you make quick, effective decisions. These aren't rigid rules, but flexible guidelines that you can adapt to various contexts. For example, you might develop a heuristic for evaluating new opportunities. If it doesn't align with my top 3 priorities or offer significant growth potential, it's a no. The key to making these techniques effective is regular practice. Just like building physical muscle memory, you need to consistently apply these thinking strategies to build cognitive muscle memory. Start by identifying opportunities in your daily life where you can apply algorithmic thinking. For instance, when planning your day, don't just make a to-do list. Instead, create a decision tree that accounts for different scenarios. If I finish task A early, I'll move on to B. If A takes longer than expected, I'll postpone C to tomorrow. This approach not only makes you more efficient, but also trains your mind to think systematically about time management. Or consider how you might apply algorithmic thinking to your learning process. Instead of passively reading or watching educational content, develop a structured approach. For every new concept, I'll define it in my own words, find 3 real-world examples, and teach it to someone else within 24 hours. By consistently applying this algorithm, you're not just absorbing information, you're training your brain to process and retain knowledge more effectively. Even in creative pursuits, which might seem antithetical to algorithmic thinking, this approach can yield surprising benefits. Writers, for example, might develop a systematic approach to character development. For each main character, I'll define their primary motivation, their biggest fear, and 3 key events that shaped their personality. This doesn't stifle creativity. Rather, it provides a structured framework within which creativity can flourish. The beauty of these techniques is that they're adaptable to virtually any field or situation. Whether you're a student tackling a complex research project, a business leader making strategic decisions, or an artist exploring new forms of expression, algorithmic thinking can enhance your performance. But here's where many people stumble. They apply these techniques sporadically or half-heartedly. Remember, the power of this approach lies in its consistent application. It's about rewiring your brain to automatically engage in structured, efficient thinking whenever you encounter a challenge. To build this consistency, start by identifying trigger points in your day, moments when you typically face decisions or challenges. These could be as simple as choosing what to eat for lunch, or as complex as strategizing for a major project at work. For each trigger point, develop a simple algorithm that you can quickly run through. For example, when faced with a decision about how to spend your free time, you might run through a quick mental checklist. Will this activity energize me or drain me? Does it align with my long-term goals? Is it the best use of my time right now? By consistently applying this algorithm, you're training your brain to make more intentional, effective decisions. As you practice these techniques, you'll likely find that your thinking becomes more efficient and effective across all areas of your life. You'll start to notice patterns and connections that you might have missed before. You'll become more adept at quickly evaluating options and making decisions with confidence. But perhaps most importantly, you'll develop a meta-awareness of your own thinking processes. You'll start to recognize when you're falling into cognitive traps or relying on faulty assumptions. This self-awareness is a crucial component of true intelligence, the ability to not just think, but to think about how you think. Of course, developing these skills takes time and effort. You might feel clumsy or slow at first as you consciously apply these techniques. But remember, the goal is to make this type of thinking automatic. With consistent practice, these algorithmic thinking processes will become second nature, allowing you to navigate complex challenges with ease and efficiency. As you continue to hone these skills, you'll likely find that your capacity for handling complexity increases. Problems that once seemed overwhelming become manageable when approached with a systematic, algorithmic mindset. You'll develop the ability to quickly break down complex issues into their component parts, analyze each element, and synthesize solutions. This increased capacity for handling complexity can open up new opportunities in both your personal and professional life. You might find yourself taking on challenges that you previously thought were beyond your abilities. You'll approach problems with a confidence born not of arrogance, but of knowing that you have a reliable, systematic approach to tackling any challenge. Moreover, as you consistently apply these algorithmic thinking strategies, you'll likely find that your intuition becomes sharper and more reliable. This might seem counterintuitive. After all, isn't algorithmic thinking the opposite of intuition? But in reality, by consistently processing information in a structured way, you're feeding your subconscious mind with high-quality inputs. Over time, this leads to more accurate gut feelings and flashes of insight. You're essentially training your intuition to operate at a higher level. But let's address a common criticism of this approach. Some argue that algorithmic thinking stifles creativity and leads to robotic, formulaic solutions. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, by freeing up cognitive resources through efficient thinking processes, you're creating more mental space for creative leaps and innovative ideas. Consider the world of art and design. Many of the most groundbreaking artists and designers use systematic approaches to push the boundaries of their craft. They don't wait for inspiration to strike. They actively generate ideas through structured processes. Take the legendary painter Pablo Picasso, who famously said, "Inspiration exists, but it has to find you working." His prolific output wasn't just a result of raw talent, but of a disciplined, systematic approach to his art. In the business world, companies that have embraced algorithmic thinking are often at the forefront of innovation. They don't rely solely on brainstorming sessions or flashes of brilliance. Instead, they implement systematic processes for idea generation, evaluation, and implementation. This approach allows them to consistently produce innovative solutions, even in highly competitive markets. But perhaps the most exciting application of algorithmic thinking is in the realm of personal growth and self-improvement. By applying these principles to your own life, you can accelerate your learning, make better decisions, and achieve your goals more efficiently. Imagine approaching your personal development with the same systematic rigor that a scientist applies to their research. You might develop algorithms for habit formation, decision-making, or skill acquisition. Over time, this approach can lead to dramatic improvements across all areas of your life. For example, let's say you want to improve your physical fitness. Instead of relying on motivation or willpower, you could develop a simple algorithm. If it's a weekday, I'll exercise for at least 30 minutes before breakfast. If I miss a session, I'll add 10 minutes to the next day's workout. This systematic approach removes the need for daily decision-making and creates a clear, actionable plan. The same principle can be applied to financial management, relationship building, or any other area of personal development. By creating simple, repeatable algorithms for important aspects of your life, you're essentially putting your personal growth on autopilot. But here's where it gets really interesting. As you become more adept at algorithmic thinking, you'll start to see opportunities for optimization everywhere. You'll develop a keen eye for inefficiencies and bottlenecks, both in your own life and in the world around you. This perspective can lead to breakthrough solutions to long-standing problems. Consider the field of public policy. Many of society's most pressing challenges, from climate change to economic inequality, require complex, multifaceted solutions. By applying algorithmic thinking to these issues, policymakers could develop more effective, data-driven approaches to addressing these challenges. Imagine a world where algorithmic thinking was applied to education systems, healthcare delivery, or urban planning. We could potentially see dramatic improvements in efficiency, effectiveness, and equity across these crucial domains. But let's be clear, algorithmic thinking isn't a panacea. It's a powerful tool, but like any tool, its effectiveness depends on how it's used. It's crucial to combine this approach with empathy, ethical considerations, and a deep understanding of the context in which you're operating. Moreover, it's important to recognize that different situations may call for different types of thinking. While algorithmic thinking can be incredibly powerful for solving well-defined problems or optimizing existing processes, there are times when more open-ended exploratory thinking is needed. The key is to develop the cognitive flexibility to switch between different modes of thinking as the situation demands. This brings us to an important point. The goal of developing algorithmic thinking skills isn't to become a human computer. Rather, it's to enhance your overall cognitive toolkit, allowing you to approach challenges with greater clarity, efficiency, and effectiveness. By mastering algorithmic thinking, you're essentially upgrading your mental operating system. You're developing the ability to process information more efficiently, make decisions more effectively, and solve problems more systematically. This enhanced cognitive capacity can open up new possibilities in every area of your life. Imagine approaching a complex work project with the confidence that comes from knowing you have a reliable, systematic approach to breaking down and solving problems. Or consider how this mindset could transform your personal relationships, allowing you to navigate conflicts and misunderstandings with greater clarity and empathy. The potential applications are virtually limitless, from managing your time more effectively to making better financial decisions, from improving your learning ability to enhancing your creative output. Algorithmic thinking can be a game changer in countless areas of life. But perhaps the most profound impact of adopting this mindset is the sense of agency and control it can provide. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, having a systematic approach to thinking and problem solving can be incredibly empowering. It allows you to face challenges with confidence, knowing that you have the tools to navigate even the most complex situations. Of course, developing these skills takes time and practice. It requires a willingness to examine your own thought processes, challenge your assumptions, and consistently apply new ways of thinking. But the potential rewards are enormous. As you begin to incorporate algorithmic thinking into your daily life, you may find that your perception of intelligence itself begins to shift. Rather than viewing intelligence as a fixed trait, you'll come to see it as a set of skills that can be honed and optimized. You'll recognize that the ability to think algorithmically, to approach problems systematically and efficiently, is often more valuable than raw intellectual horsepower. This shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating. It means that you're not limited by your IQ score or your performance on standardized tests. Instead, your cognitive potential is determined by your willingness to learn, adapt, and consistently apply effective thinking strategies. So, how can you start incorporating algorithmic thinking into your daily life? Here are some concrete steps to get you started. 1. Identify recurring decisions or challenges in your life. These could be personal or professional. For each one, develop a simple algorithm, a set of steps or questions you can quickly run through to guide your thinking. 2. Practice breaking down complex problems into smaller, more manageable parts. When faced with a daunting task, resist the urge to tackle it all at once. Instead, systematically dissect it into its component elements. 3. Develop personal heuristics for common situations. These are mental shortcuts that can help you make quick, effective decisions. For example, if a task will take less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. 4. Start a decision journal. After making important decisions, record your thought process, the factors you considered, and the outcome. Over time, this will help you identify patterns and refine your thinking algorithms. 5. Seek out diverse perspectives and information sources. Algorithmic thinking is most effective when it's fed with high-quality, varied inputs. Make a habit of exposing yourself to new ideas and viewpoints. 6. Practice metacognition, thinking about your thinking. Regularly reflect on your thought processes. Are there areas where you tend to get stuck or make assumptions? How can you optimize these mental pathways? 7. Apply the principles of algorithmic thinking to your learning process. Develop systematic approaches for acquiring and retaining new knowledge and skills. Remember, the goal isn't to turn yourself into a robot or to eliminate intuition and creativity. Rather, it's to develop a more structured, efficient approach to thinking that can complement and enhance your natural cognitive abilities. As you begin to incorporate these practices into your life, you may find that tasks that once seemed overwhelming become manageable. Problems that used to stump you now yield to your systematic approach. You'll likely notice improvements in your decision-making, your ability to learn new skills, and your overall cognitive performance. But perhaps most importantly, you'll develop a new sense of confidence in your ability to navigate complex challenges. You'll know that no matter what problem you face, you have a reliable set of mental tools to tackle it. This journey towards algorithmic thinking isn't just about personal improvement. As more people adopt this mindset, we have the potential to collectively enhance our problem-solving capabilities as a society. Imagine a world where complex global challenges are approached with the same systematic rigor that top performers apply to their respective fields. So, are you ready to upgrade your mental operating system? Are you prepared to challenge your assumptions about intelligence and cognitive performance? The power to dramatically enhance your thinking abilities is within your grasp. All it takes is a commitment to consistent practice and a willingness to approach problems in a new way. As you move forward, keep this question in mind. What could you achieve if you were able to think more efficiently, make better decisions, and solve problems more effectively? The answer might just surprise you. Your journey into algorithmic thinking starts now. Every decision you make, every problem you solve, is an opportunity to practice and refine these skills. So why wait? Take that first step. Choose a recurring challenge in your life and start developing your algorithm for tackling it. Your future self will thank you for the cognitive upgrade you're about to embark on.